This video will combine the last 3 tiers of the JRPG Iceberg from Reddit. I've omitted the entries that I couldn't find any information on, ROM hacks, and ones that just don't exist. I'm sorry, but there's no such thing as a JRPG that was created by the United States government. Wyvern Tales. Wyvern Tales is an indie game released in September 2021 for the Atari Lynx of all things. It was developed by Nomad and published by Songbird. What possessed this developer to release a game exclusively for the Lynx in the 2020s is beyond my comprehension. The release was limited to 250 physical copies. Zool Legend of the Beast Tamer was created by a developer named Pandora Box and published by Imagineer in 1999 for the N64, in Japan only. It's a monster collecting game similar to Pokemon. The main character finds a monster and raises it to battle evil. Humans and demons occupy the same world, but the demons do not attack people unless their territory is invaded. Humans who know this have quietly coexisted with the demons. This is the relationship between humans and demons, but there are some humans who love the demon beasts and they travel together as friends. People call them demon masters and watch over them with curiosity and a little respect. Ihatovo Monogatari was developed and published by a company called Hecht in 1993 for the Super Famicom, only in Japan, as usual. An English fan translation was released in 2018. The story takes place in the utopian world of Ihatovo. The gameplay focuses on collecting items and information rather than fighting battles. The game is inspired by the stories of Kenji Miyazawa, a Buddhist writer and poet born in the late 1800s and died in 1933. His writings went almost entirely unknown for the duration of his life. The ending of the games usually involve talking to Miyazawa himself and boarding on the Galaxy Railroad train, which is a reference to his fantasy novel Night on the Galactic Railroad. Titanic 1912 is a Chinese bootleg NES game based on the movie Titanic. I don't know who developed it. It comes from China.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China.
And I have no idea when it found its way onto the internet. There's not really a whole lot I can say here. I think you play as Leonardo DiCaprio, and you fight turn-based battles against bugs. The plot is just the movie Titanic. I don't know what to tell you. Just look at the game. Magical Medical. The first thing I want to talk about with this game is that when I tried to research it, the first result that came up was a company for adult diapers. So be careful looking for the game, you know. I'm gonna have to clear that search history. The game was developed and published by Konami in 1998 for the PS1 in, guess where, Japan only, nowhere else. The game is about medicine and health and takes place in the near future at an elementary school where one of the students collapsed. She was infected by the mysterious pathogen X. The player plays as an antivirus that introduced himself into the student's body to destroy the virus. During the game, the player has to destroy the virus in 6 different patients. The phrase "in Japan only" is getting really redundant at this point, so unless I state otherwise, just assume that the game was created exclusively for Japan. Aretha was developed by Japan Art Media and published by Yanomon Corporation in 1990. A sequel for the Super Famicom titled Aretha the Super Famicom was released in 1993 and it was developed by Game Arts. Aretha tells the story of Ariel, a granddaughter whose grandmother has been turned into a 10-year-old. Ariel is given the task to go to a town that I can't pronounce, but it starts with an N. Anyway, she's supposed to go to that town and meet this certain person. Ariel uses this quest to hone her magic skills to fight the ultimate battle against evil. I'm not sure what any of this has to do with her grandmother. Maka Maka was a dumpster fire that was developed by Office Kokon and published by Sigma Entertainment in 1992. The creators were trying to meet a deadline and it was approaching very quickly. They absolutely did not want to miss this deadline, so they just released the prototype version of that game as the official release. It was a glitchy mess and Sigma Enterprises ended up shutting down as a result. You know what, if this game came out today, they would be fine, you know, billion-dollar company, no joke. I still have not been able to find an English fan translation for this game. I'm pretty sure I read on a forum, I can't remember where, but they say a lot of the jokes in this game are impossible to translate because they just wouldn't make sense in English. GOD, Growth or De-Evolution, was released by Imagineer for the Super Famicom in 1998. The main character is one of few in the world with the power to tap into chakra gates and powers of the mind. He becomes entangled with an army called Bless, who are trying to stop evil aliens and mutated creatures. The main character must find others who have a spiritual connection with him and increase Bless's numbers. The player explores the world with a party and discovers things unknown in the world of mortals and discover the unknown within the self. The game was re-released on PS1 with a new arranged music and full motion video sequences. Hoshiwo Miruhito was developed by another and published by Hot B in October 1987 for the Famicom. The game is based on an earlier cyberpunk game for the PC 8801 called Psychic City from 1984. Hoshiwo Miruhito, or Stargazer, is set in a cyberpunk world where a supercomputer named Crew 3 has brainwashed Earth's population into driving themselves to extinction. The only ones who can resist the Crew 3 computer are those with psychic abilities, which Crew 3 has sent a group of bounty hunters to wipe out. Planet Laika was developed by two companies, Quintet and Zek, and it was published by Enix for the PS1 in October 1999. The main character is Laika, who is on a mission through Mars that forces the player to manipulate Laika's multiple personality disorder to solve puzzles. All the characters in the game have dog heads, which is most likely a reference to the Soviet space dog named Laika, who was the first animal to orbit the Earth. Planet Laika differs from regular JRPGs in that the battles are not turn-based, but more closely resemble games like Space Invaders and Pong. Albert Odyssey is a franchise developed by Sunsoft, originally for the Super Famicom and released in 1993. The main character is Albert, a young swordsman who lives in a fantasy world filled with monsters and mythical creatures. Most of the world remains in relative peace after a great war that took place for many years prior. A military faction led by a dark magician named Golbus has emerged to conquer the new pacified nations and expand their empire. Albert and his friends, along with hired mercenaries, must travel the world and eventually confront Golbus and his forces in order to prevent another large-scale conflict. Albert Odyssey: Legend of Eldine was developed and published by Sunsoft for the Super Famicom, but was ported to the Sega Saturn late in its development and was the first Albert Odyssey game to be released in North America in 1997. Y2K, a postmodern RPG, was developed by an American developer called Axe Studios and was released on PC, Mac, PS4, and Nintendo Switch in January 2019. This game was so uninteresting and boring looking to me that it single-handedly sent this channel into a 7-month hiatus because I didn't want to bother writing anything about it. But I'm back. I'm going to read an excerpt from the Oni Plays Wiki because I'm positive they are the only people on Earth who have ever played this game. In an alternate version of 1999, Alex and his friends investigate the mystery around the disappearance of a young Korean girl named Sammy and slowly uncover a series of surreal events that threaten to destroy their reality. As the game progresses and the in-game date sets closer to Y2K, many aspects of the plot become intentionally vague and are frequently contradicted. This is meant to symbolize the fact that Alex's reality is warping and becoming more unstable with each passing day. Sounds like a cop-out for bad writing, and despite the game being set in the late 90s, the MC looks like a modern-day hipster. Ralphadia was a cancel game that was planned by Taito for the Famicom around 1992. There isn't a whole lot of information online, but there was a user that goes by the name of Akamid83 who found a preview for the game in an old promotional leaflet for in-development Famicom games. Popolo Kroi Monogatari. Popolo Kroi is a manga series written by Tomari Yosuke, and it was adapted into 2 anime series and 5 console RPGs. The title is a combination of 2 words from 2 different languages, the Italian word for people, popolo, and the French word for crossing, kroi, which together means crossing of people. The first game starts with the main character having his 10th birthday. Despite this, the kid is pretty bummed out. Why? My guess is it has something to do with his dead mother. MC goes to see his father and discovers him talking to an unconscious woman, who is revealed to be his mother. That's right, she was never dead the whole time, just in a coma. He finds out that her soul has been taken to the land of darkness, a place where only the dead go, and against his father's wishes, he sets off on a quest to get his mother's soul back. Ushiro is a cancelled horror JRPG that was in development by Studio Level 5 for the PSP. It was announced in September 2008 and was supposed to release the following year. The game was going to tell the story of Reiichiro Ushiro, a spirit with the power to give a person one single wish in exchange for their life. The gameplay was going to be Reiichiro controlling and possessing people, seeing the lives of strangers and battling the personifications of evil in people's hearts through turn-based combat. In 2014, Level 5 CEO Akihiro Hino said that the company was considering new developments for Ushiro. Soon after, a light novel series was written by Lou Goto, and in 2015, a manga adaptation began serialization in Web New Type and Gekon Heroes. In 2016, Hino confirmed that the company would not be moving forward with Ushiro. Despite this, the game remains at a top spot of Famitsu readers' most wanted polls to this very day. Earthbound 64, or Mother 3 Fall of the Pig King, is a cancelled N64 game that began development for the Nintendo 64 DD with a projected release date in 1999. But the future of the 64 DD began to be doubted, and they switched focus to the regular N64 game pack with a new projected release date of sometime in 1998. The game never released because development was taking up resources from Nintendo's newest upcoming console, the GameCube. The game was officially cancelled in 2000, but was brought back into development for the Game Boy Advance in 2003. I think it would have been really cool to see the Mother series in 3D for either the N64 or GameCube. Sad. Startling Odyssey is a series of games developed by Rayforce for PC Engine. They later received remakes for the PlayStation 1. Contrary to the numbers of the game, they progressed backwards. 3 would be the first game chronologically, 2 the next, and the last being 1. The series is really hard for me to get a grasp on because of the story progression and cancelled games, so feel free to call me a fucking idiot if I fuck this up. I think the 2 officially released games are Startling Odyssey 1 and 2, with 3 being cancelled alongside another game which I assume was supposed to be a direct sequel to 2, due to it also having 2 in the name. In the game, you play the role of Rob Salford, the Blue God of Death, and are tasked with fulfilling your destiny by stopping the evil Kirubeito, who is creating/modifying dragons to destroy the world. Famicom Disk System Seiken Densetsu. This is another cancelled one. The Mana series was supposed to have a game for the Famicom Disk System that would require 5 discs. If you don't know what the disk system is, it's an add-on for the Famicom that reads floppy disks. The game was cancelled before development even started, and Square apologetically informed customers that they should probably spend their time and money developing for the upcoming Final Fantasy instead. I think they made the right call with that one. Brimstone. In 1994, developer Technocrest was working on a game for the publisher Taito entitled Brimstone. There isn't a lot known about this game, but a programmer shared some information online. He says, yeah, it was basically another RPG that Technocrest promised to make for Taito. The funny thing is, they had all this artwork but no programmer, so I was hired to make a Super Nintendo demo of Brimstone. Anyways, I made something up in about a week, and Taito greenlighted the project, but about a month after they decided to put Brimstone on hold and put priority on porting Lufia, and it all went downhill from there. We finally made it to the last entry on the JRPG Iceberg from Reddit. At least the last entry that I'm going to cover. As usual, the link to the iceberg will be in the description. You should go check it out for yourself. Anyway, let's get into the last game. Bob's Game DS. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Terry A. Davis if you frequent that corner of the internet like I do. Rest in peace to the legend. I think what we have here with Bob's Game is another one of those situations. As a matter of fact, if I didn't know any better, I would just assume they were the same person. Bob's Game is an RPG that's been under development since 2003 by a man named Robert Poloni. Robert Poloni is known for his erratic behavior. His attempt to get a software development kit from Nintendo for the DS escalated into a 30-day protest, vandalizing a store, an announcement of a competing console, and several crowdfunding campaigns. I may actually do an entire video on the guy because he's just that interesting. If I covered every happening of the situation here, it would probably be more than triple the length of this video. I will say Robert Poloni's website is incredibly interesting, and it's what led me to the Terry A. Davis comparison. It's just a single web page with nothing but text. Apparently he's known for changing his website, so I don't know if it'll change again in the future, but as of recording, this is what it looks like. Don't play those stupid games or listen to that horrible music. Stay off the internet porn and never do drugs. Stay in school, go to church, listen to your parents. My dad says to read Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover and basically just don't buy anything, live conservatively, and invest in compounding interest, and then everyone can be a millionaire. I would just listen to him. Well, in that case, if everything is equal for everyone, then a little bit of everything is probably fine if you ask me. Otherwise, we might end up with military space police trying to ban common molecules, unless common molecules aren't actually real, in which case, military space police probably aren't either. Probably they are. Just listen to your parents. Especially don't drink or do drugs or watch pornography if you can avoid it. And absolutely, definitely obey God if he tells you something directly. And follow God's rules. If nobody else actually exists to read this, please ignore it. That's the end of the JRPG Iceberg series, everybody. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed all the videos. I enjoyed making them, but I'm glad to be free of this and I can finally move on to a different project. Let me know what you want to see from me in the comments. Remember to subscribe, like the video. It makes me feel good, makes number go up. I don't make any money or anything from this yet. Probably won't. I don't know. I'm just having fun. Thanks again.